All right, here we are at Gunsmith Part 16, the crown jewel of the current wipe, 1212 wipe Gunsmith tasks. So this one is the tough one. It's the M4 with the Reap IR. It's probably the most expensive one, especially now that you can't sell your Reap IR that you get out of it. So we'll look at the task here real quick. Mechanic kind of rambles on a little bit about how guns are art and things are pretty, but he wants you to build a masterpiece. And this is going to be an M4 A1 with an NT4 FDE silencer. FDE is flat dark earth, so the brown one. Rifle length MK10 handguard, specific part. Reap IR, specific part. And a 60 round magazine. Now the ergo has to be over 40, and this is going to be the main stat that you're going to revolve around on this build. And then a recoil less than 250 and 5 kilograms or less in weight. The last two, they matter, but with the parts you use, you don't usually have to worry about it too much. Now to do this build cheap, or affordably, I guess, because it's not cheap even with vendors, you have to have Peacekeeper loyalty level 3, Mechanic loyalty level 3, and if you don't have a Reap IR from one of the tasks, you have to have Skier loyalty level 4 for his barter for the Reap IR. Peacekeeper 3 is for the mag, and Mechanic 3 is just for a bunch of parts that you're going to use to build this. Now you can buy everything on the flea except the Reap IR and the mag. Those two things you have to barter for or get from tasks. Outside of that, everything else can be bought. So if you have those two items, you can just buy everything else off the flea market, spend a bunch of money, and be done with this task. That's your choice. But I'm going to go over some of the required parts first, as well as some options and things. So things that you have to get no matter what. You have to have these for the build. There is no option because they're specifically called out. The first one is the Reap IR. So you have to get this guy, and you can get it through 2 task rewards. 3 technically, but the third one is this task, so it doesn't do any good. Import, which is where you have to give the RFID and the VPX to Mechanic. That'll get you a Reap IR. And then Huntsman Path Sadist, which is with Jaeger, where you have to kill Sanitar. That will give you a Reap. And that's where I got this one, was from killing Sanitar. So thanks Sanitar for my Reap IR. Now with this, you need a D-lock. It doesn't say you have to have it in the task, but you can't mount it without one. Now D-locks you can buy. You can go spend 40, 50, 60,000 rubles on them. Or like everything else I like to show you guys, there is a barter, a very cheap barter. It's 4D batteries. So usually somewhere between 20 and 30,000 rubles, even a little bit cheaper now if you can get all of these. And that gets you the barter. Reap goes right on top of that. Let me put that there. And then the other one is this Reap IR cup. Now this isn't required, but it's a free 6 ergo. So this is available on Jaeger level 3 for really cheap. Let me show you here real quick. Right here. 374 rubles, game breaking, I know, but it's pretty cheap on the flea market too. You can usually get it for 9 or 10,000 rubles if you don't have Jaeger 3 yet for this. So you slap that on there, and that's your first required piece. The next one is going to be the NT4 FDE. So you got to get this KAC QDSS NT4 556 sound suppressor, flat dark earth. Don't get the gray one or the black one or whatever color it is. It has to be this tan one, flat dark earth. Then on that, you have to have the special, the specific QD, quick detach muzzle brake, which is that right there, and then you're covered. There's your muzzle brake for that. And then the last specific part it calls out is the MK10. This is pretty cheap. You can get it off Mechanic 3, but even on the market, it's not a whole lot of a different price. People don't usually use them, so this is the only use for it. That being said, the rail that you do need to buy for it, the MK10, can get expensive. Again, this is on Mechanic loyalty level 3, so if you don't have it, you have to buy it off the flea market. And right now you're seeing 20, 30,000, but if a bunch of people do this task, these disappear, and I'll see this push 60, 70, 80, even 100,000 rubles for this MK10. So that is needed for that specifically. It's the only one that can go on there. All right, now the next one is 60 round mags. Now, the best one to barter for is this Stang 60, and this is the one we'll do the build centered around, but the D60 works, and it's actually a little bit better because it's got less ergo, so you need to buy less expensive parts on the other part of the gun to make up for the ergo. Now this barter is with PK loyalty level 3. This is why you have to have him here if you don't have this. If you have this mag from somewhere else, you're fine. Pretty cheap barter, not too bad. The reason I don't say this barter is because 2 green batteries right now, I mean, what do these things cost? So you're spending over 1 million rubles to get a mag. There's other ways to get this mag. This barter is basically pointless. So we're going to talk about the Stang. And yes, I know it's Stanag. I say Stang. Let me all know how stupid I am in the comments. That's fine. Now, some other parts to keep in mind. You need to have the short barrel. You can technically do this build without it, but it's much harder. And this barrel is pretty easy to get a hold of. It's a barter at loyalty level 2 Mechanic. Don't buy it. Don't spend the 70,000 on it. Like everything else, let's go look at the barters. You got a super cheap barter right here for Marble 3s and Apollo 2s. This is mechanic loyalty level 2 that you can get this. Or if you don't want to do that, you can buy it for $183 from PK loyalty level 3. Now after that is the GL Shock, and we've used this in several of the other builds. We've all talked about the barter. It's a WD-40, so go get that. This is just it's probably one of the cheaper ones you're gonna be able to buy anyways. If you can buy it from Skier, great. But the barter is just one can of WD-40, and this probably costs what, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,000 rubles. Get you the GL stock. Just do this, get it out of the way. It gets you that 13 ergo that it has, and it's pretty straightforward. And that's pretty much the main gist of the parts there. Now the other things that are going to be in this build is I'm going to use the Raptor charging handle. It's not too super expensive. You know, you're talking 8 to 15K, depending on if you have traders or not. Just make sure you're buying the regular one. Don't get the gray one. They're the same stats. One's just colored gray, but it doesn't come from the vendor, so it costs 3 times as much. So just go with the regular Raptor charging handle. We'll look at the other parts here, but that's pretty much the big parts for my build. Now, just a quick shout out, because I like pointing you guys to their direction. This is the Wiki Build. This works. It's not the cheapest. It's not necessarily the easiest. That's what my build's going to be, but I wanted to show you that the Wiki Build still functions. I checked it out. It gets you your 40 ergo, you're under 250, you're under your weight, and you have everything else here that you need. So let's go open up mine, which is version 2, and it's not a huge difference. As you can see, there's not a lot of parts. But let's go through the process of how we're going to build this exactly. Now, other than the parts that we already talked about, I have the Stark AR rifle grip and the KC vertical foregrip, and then the MK12 low profile gas block. These are all things that you can get off of traders. The rest of this is off of a base M4, but I'm not going to buy a base M4 because there's a little bit cheaper way to do this if you don't. Because buying a base M4 right now, we'll go back here and look. You're talking right around, I believe 60K to get one, 50, 60K. Well, if you come in here and uncheck operational only, you can get, we're going to even save a little bit of money here. We can save 700 rubles. We'll buy this guy's base level Colt M4 right here. Make sure it's over 60 durability. We've got that. Now we're going to build this out from just this bottom end piece, because you really only are going to buy 3 parts that the full M4 has that this one doesn't. And everything else you're going to replace. So you might as well just go a little bit cheaper if you can. Okay, so we're ready to go. We're ready to build. We got our 40 ergo. We're under 250 ergo, under our weight. We're going to click assemble, and I'm going to show you first. I'm going to show you all of the parts. All right, so here's our part list, our full part list. I'm going to take off traders, and that's pretty much all we're going to uncheck there. But we will turn off this because we already have our Colt M4. We're going to uncheck the D lock because we know we're going to barter for that. You can't buy the Surefire and you can't buy the Trijicon. So if you're going to buy everything else off the market, and this Alexander Arms 10-inch rail, you can buy this off of a vendor. I've already got it. I don't know why it's here, so let's uncheck that, because that was like 2,000 rubles when I bought it off the vendor, so I don't know why it's 68,000 here. But nonetheless, as you can see, we have about 115, 120,000, depending on what traders you have and what you're going to buy your parts at, on top of the gun, and then the Reap IR and the D-Lock and stuff. So this is your part list. I'm going to go back and deselect when I do this here. I'm going to make sure I have the parts. So with all the things that we didn't buy, I've got to buy 15,000 in parts, maybe even less if we uncheck. Nope. So we're buying the upper, we're buying the gas block, we're buying the foregrip, and we're buying the buffer tube. We'll buy those, and we're going to assemble real quick here. Gun's pretty much slapped together, ready to go. It's got the little yellow check right here, shows you that it's ready for Gunsmith Part 16. And that's that. Now, some of these other parts in here I want to talk about, little alternates, things that you can do to get your, if you're playing around with this ergo number, because that's really where it's at. You have a ton of choices with pistol grips. So we went with the Stark, right? So the Stark is 11. It's pretty cheap, and that's why I went with it, because I'm not going to go to 42 or 44, don't need to. But if you're struggling from some of your other parts, you can't quite get that extra ergo, you have some options with some of these other grips to get 11, 12, 13, and then the 2 meta ones are 15, right? So 4 more ergo you can get from those. On top of that, you have some other stocks you can choose. Now, the GLR will slap right on there. It's the same stock. I don't know if you can get it cheaper. Kind of depends. Yeah, it looks like you can get it cheaper than the barter if you want to go with the Fab Defense. It's the same as the GL Shock, plus 13 ergo, 29 recoil. So it's essentially the same, just looks a little bit different. This GL Core is 15 ergo, but the catch is you have to use the advanced receiver buffer tube for it. which you can get for mechanic loyalty level 4. It gives you a little bit extra ergo over the Colt buffer tube. Here, let me show you. That was +2, and the Colt is +0. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't have any ergo. So there's 2 more ergo there, 7 more ergo. You could practically take off the foregrip and still meet the requirements with that build. Just kind of depends. Also, you can put a rear iron sight on here like this to get 1 additional ergo. You can see that 41 right there, and it doesn't matter which one. I have the Chris Vector one because it's really cheap, but it's +1 ergo. So there's another little extra ergo you can get there. And then lastly is the foregrips, right? We just went with a straight ergo foregrip. It's +7, but you do have the Cobra, which is +9, the Shift, which is +8, and the SE5 that is +8. But I put these in order of cost. The SE5 is really expensive. Don't do that unless you absolutely have to. Cobra is +9, -1 recoil. This should do the trick for you. Now, if all else fails and you can't go this route, there's one other option you can do, and we kind of did this with Gunsmith Part 4, and it's this SAI barter for 7 Bitcoins. This will get you most of the way to the gun. So I'm gonna edit preset this thing real quick. Let me find it. I have a preset built, but I just want to show you. So I came in here to this edit preset off of this SAI, right? And when I open up my version 4 of my version 3 of my Gunsmith Part 16, which we'll do right here, this is editing this gun. So version 3, that's taking all the parts but getting it to where it meets the requirements, right? And we're even a little overkill. You know, you could dial the GL shock back or anything else to get, because you're at 42 ergo, right? But if we go to assemble this, let me uncheck the parts that you're going to need to buy. You're spending the 7 Bitcoins, which is right around 210K, plus another 130,000 rubles roughly to get all the other parts to get this built. Actually, it's not that much. Let me uncheck the D-lock here. And that disappeared for whatever reason. But so 74,000, my bad. 74,000 plus the rebar parts on top of that 220,000 for the SAI. So here's another option. It gets you the 60 round mag, it gets you everything else. And you can do this at, I think it's mechanic loyalty level 3 that this barter becomes available, if I'm correct. Or is it even 2? Yeah, it's even 2. So you could technically do this at mechanic loyalty level 2 if you're going to be willing to buy all your parts and you want to get this done. So just wanted to show you that one little alternate out there available to do that. But let's stop chitter chatting and let's go turn this in and be done with Gunsmith for patch 12.12. Like that, we are complete. No more Gunsmith. So you get your nice little handy reward here. You know, it gives you this M4A Space Trooper. Now, when you get this, there's some parts on here. It's all found in raid, right? Now, the Reap you can't sell, unfortunately, anymore, but you can sell the D-Lock. You can't sell the 60, but it comes with another one of those short barrels. And I know you guys saw how expensive that short barrel was. So with these parts in here, you can get several $100,000 just parting this thing out and selling it. So keep that in mind when you get it. Don't just run this thing unless you want to. That's your choice. But part it out, sell the parts you can, make as much money back from this task as you can, especially if you had to barter for that FLIR or that Reap IR, because it's pretty expensive. But that's pretty much it. That's Gunsmith Part 16 and the whole Gunsmith series. I hope this was a help for you guys. I hope you're able to blow through this pretty quickly and save as much money. Wish you the best of luck in raids. We'll see you in Tarkov.